moving to the technical part of things today. So I am Mayank, and by the way, Roland, thanks for hosting OpenMRS today.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I know you're working on a lot of cool projects, and it's really awesome to be among the HackerspaceSG community for the first time in case of me. So, alright. So guys, I'm Mayank. I'm the developer tools manager and the release manager for OpenMRS. I'm joined by Michael Downey, who is the worldwide community manager and the director of community for OpenMRS. And we also have Saptarshi. Saptarshi is the manager of education and training programs for OpenMRS. So, what is OpenMRS is probably the first question that's coming to your mind. Let's address that. So, OpenMRS is a free and open source software. It's a medical record system. That's what the MRS stands for. So, the primary use of OpenMRS is to provide countries or basically any place in the world where people lack resources or the IT training or the IT infrastructure to implement a medical record system. So OpenMRS enables these places to have proper recording of their medical data. For example, PIH is one of our implementers, and Alright, I'll address that issue later. So, OpenMRS primary uses that in developing countries or any places with limited access to IT and technical resources, we help them record in a better way all the medical data related to clinics, hospitals, so that OpenMRS is sponsored by a lot of international organizations, governments, and corporations. So, let's talk a bit about OpenMRS implementation. So, as per our 2015 reports, there are about 1149 implementations of OpenMRS across the globe. Some of the major ones are in Haiti, Rwanda, South Africa, Liberia, Mexico, Bangladesh, India, and Sri Lanka. And they are in a lot of places spread across the globe, as I'll zoom in on the map and we can see it later. So there are about 5.1 million patient records that are managed by our implementations worldwide. OpenMRS was built as a system that is really extensible to the needs of the implementations. So our implementations have currently specialized OpenMRS to provide care in HIV, TB, malaria, child health, Ebola, diabetes, and primary care, etc. We'll be covering the Ebola part later. It's pretty interesting, and I'm pretty sure you guys are gonna love it. So this is the map. You can this actually points the OpenMRS implementation research centers or the education and training centers that we have across the globe. You can access this at atlas.openmrs.org to get real-time updates of where all our implementations are.
Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, so just I think we have some non-technical members of our audience here. Alright, so that's the first point just to highlight to you because you mentioned this is a technical presentation. So I don't even make sure that some of our non-technical members they still can follow the presentation.
Sure.
Number two. Okay, so I know roughly what OpenMRS is, so I want to know what's the deal and what's the importance of having open medical record system because I believe Singapore does not have any implementation of the open medical record system. And perhaps are you going to be sharing why is it important now?
Yeah, I will be.
Okay.
I will be. And I'm alright. So in case you guys think it gets technical, just please let us know. Where I think it's pretty straightforward until now. So beyond the software, what OpenMRS is, it's a community of volunteers, and it's ever expanding. OpenMRS has been around for over 10 years now, and our community has software developers, doctors, professors. Saptarshi is actually a professor at IUPUI. We have got implementers, students. I'm a student. I'm currently a junior, and the students are from high school to PhD level. We've got health IT enthusiasts, software testers, people who manage infrastructure, and IT engineers, and people from all the fields you can imagine volunteer and make OpenMRS what it is today. So in our annual report of 2015, we asked a lot of these volunteers to try and describe OpenMRS in one word. So this is just a collage of the words that we got from them. Community, awesome, family. I think I gave family, now that I think about it. Caring, heroes, friendly, progressive. Yeah, welcoming. Yeah, it's definitely welcoming. So an interesting fact. So yesterday marks my 1 year with OpenMRS. I actually met Michael 1 year back at FOSS Asia 15. And watching Michael and Harsha was the other community developer that we had at FOSS Asia. Watching the presentation actually motivated me to start exploring OpenMRS, start working them. So it was definitely welcoming, and I've had an incredible year. If I look back to myself in 2015 and now, I have definitely become a better software developer as well as a human being. So thank you, Michael and OpenMRS, for all of that. So moving on to discussion. So yeah, I'm just putting up some numbers from our annual report now. We've had over 500,000 emails sent last year, and about 15,000 new posts created in 2015. The number is pretty big, so you can imagine the amount of community involvement and discussion that take place in OpenMRS. The developer stats, we've had about 64% of new committers in 2015, and there are over 6,000 commits to our 117 GitHub repositories. OpenMRS is an active participant of student programs. So OpenMRS has been participating in Google Code-In and Google Summer of Code for over 10 years now. And as far as events are concerned, we have a lot of events, which range from weekly meetings to having implementers meeting, which are where all the implementers of OpenMRS gather and share what they expect of the community, what they learn from implementing it in different parts of the world, and how we can make the whole experience better for all the people across the globe. We have hackathons, the annual OpenMRS Summit, which is took place in Singapore in December last year. And if any developer wants to join us, there's definitely 1 or 2 sprints that go on. So talking a little bit about the history of OpenMRS. So I'm just going to show you this video first. The guy you see there is Paul Bondich. He is one of the founders of OpenMRS, and he's going to talk a bit about how OpenMRS started. So this video is actually was recorded for the Linux Foundation, and Paul had a keynote talk 2 years back. Yeah, 2 years back. And here's what he has to say about OpenMRS over there. Oops.
OpenMRS is essentially, well, it stands for the Open Medical Record System, and it's a project that's designed to create a platform for...
Okay, sorry, I was trying to increase the volume.
OpenMRS is essentially, well, it stands for the Open Medical Record System, and it's a project that's designed to create a platform for different kinds of healthcare environments and resource poor settings to build meaningful record systems in support of improved healthcare delivery and improved health outcomes. Me and one of my colleagues, a guy named Burke Mamlin, were asked to go to an environment in Western Kenya called AMPATH. It was a partnership between the university that I'm a part of, Indiana University, and a university that is in Kenya called Moi University. And they were in the midst of building up a care and treatment program around HIV. So I was actually asked to go, based upon my background in medical informatics, go look at the information system that they had put in place for a couple of thousand patients and fix it. I worked in the clinic one of the days that I was there, and I kind of took a step back and thought, well, why am I trying to optimize a good health system in the US when there are all of these environments in places like Kenya and throughout Africa that have no information infrastructure and need really kind of simple systems to make huge kind of improvements and impact. And so I decided that it was going to be more than a week consulting. It was going to be something I wanted to do for my career. I didn't know at the time, but I just remember being really excited about trying to serve the underserved. I thought everyone that was interested in OpenMRS would be people that were working in these very environments, people that were kind of eating what they cook. So it's of relevance to them because they're trying to solve the problem. But what I didn't realize is that people are inherently philanthropic with their time. And just because they don't know about medical record systems doesn't mean they don't want to help. And so our whole model kind of evolved into trying to bring the people who need modifications and changes and improvements in the code to the people who are engineering. And so we've started to really create kind of this collaborative community process where software gets created that meets end users' needs. I mean, there were a couple of points in time when I really understood that what we were doing is open source, and I went and just tried to become a student of it. I'm one of the probably hundreds of organizations that looks at a project like Linux and says, well, that they've done it right. Look at the scale that they've been able to bring. And so I read a lot about the different kind of kernel engineers and how they manage software development. So yeah, we've learned a ton. We're like the tiny stepchild of Linux in some ways, because you all certainly have influenced a lot of the work that we've done. So I think we've gained a lot from all of the good work that you all have done, and more importantly, the way in which you've described how it's done. I mean, I think it's the historical remnant of how things evolved that are really important to little small fledgling projects like ours. We realize that when countries make national level decisions to work with a platform like OpenMRS, we have a responsibility to create structures that are going to protect it long term so that it can be sustainable. And so we've created a not-for-profit organization that is to support the continued growth of the community. And we're looking really carefully now at the kinds of things that not-for-profit organization can do to stimulate this ecosystem that I talked about. Taking a lead from the Linux Foundation and organizations like Linux Foundation, we're trying to kind of play catch-up and create the milieu in which lots of implementations can happen, because there's an anticipation that that's necessary. And countries are already starting to move forward for that, but there's not necessarily the supportive construct that's fully in place to allow it to happen at scale. So we're putting a lot of energy into that now.
Alright, so that gave us a lot of insight into what OpenMRS is and how it was started. So giving a brief timeline of how everything happened. So the lead doctor's son was asked to visit Kenya to fix a MS Access database. That son would be Burke Mamlin, who is the other founder of OpenMRS. So he said that I'm not coming alone, I want to tag along with a friend of mine, and that friend would be Paul Vandich, who you just saw. So Paul and Burke visited Kenya to fix a MS Access database for AMPATH, and it turned out that they realized that they might require something which is much bigger than a database, because both of them are from different organizations. So they decided to come up with a system which is highly customizable as per the requirement of a medical setting. For example, these guys were observing the case in Kenya. Both of them were coming from different parts in the United States. So from there came something called concepts in OpenMRS. So what a concept is, it is an abstract term that people can use to describe certain medical terms. For example, say if it's a disease, how can you define a disease in terms of different numbers and values? It may depend on where it is being implemented. Let's say a disease is common in some part of the world and not in some other part of the world. So in that part of the world, it will be of more importance, and they would want to maintain it in their own database. So how can they? This timeline between 2004 to 2006, was mainly involved in coming up with a system which allows them to build an abstract system that can really build custom or how can I say, how to put it in the best way possible, that can really help them build a medical record system that is totally like customized by the people who are implementing it. So these were the first 2 years that from 2004 to 2006. In 2006, do you have a question?
Yeah. Okay,
Sure.
Sorry, maybe I'm a bit lost, but
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a layman. I don't have any insights into what a medical record system is. The only thing I know about medical records is I go and see my GP. He takes a card, then writes down, okay, he's got this ailment. He reads a medicine. So I would like to understand what a proper electronic medical record system does. What's the advantage, and why is there a need for an OpenMRS, which is obviously the mission of the OpenMRS project itself, and why other whatever existing alternative solutions that are out there doesn't feed this particular requirements that other entities might need that OpenMRS actually needs. Yeah, so perhaps
Right. So let's address them one by one. So first thing, what is a medical record system? Okay. So a medical record system is a software which is run by doctors, clinics, to keep a record of whatever patient comes in, log different aspects of the patient, his progress, not only patients, drugs, any incidents, any observations, any events that they occur, and keep all that data organized in one place. And a medical record system will allow them to record that data, as well as access that data, utilize that data, model that data into appropriate forms that can be useful to them. So the idea of a medical record system is to take the load off from doctors or people who are in this practice, because we want them to focus on their job. We want them to focus on doing surgeries. We want them to focus on treating patients, rather than trying to figure out, okay, this was the data I should be looking at, okay, this could be wrong, this could be right, or this I'll have to plot it manually. We do not want them to do that. So a medical record system is a big software which has a lot of features which allows doctors to focus on their jobs, and it abstracts all this work into a software. So
is OpenMRS focused specifically clinical, or does it include research, epidemiology, public health?
It includes all of them. So OpenMRS has been built. Yeah, it's a customizable. We have a modular architecture. So we have got a core API which provides you access to our database and things.
So it's across the board. This was the question rather than
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so it's a modular architecture, so you can make your own modules and add more features to it.
Do you protect the privacy of the patients since it's open source? Is it easy to hack?
Yeah, so here's the thing. The source code is open source. But the data is not open source. Where it is being implemented, let's say I am an OpenMRS implementer. Michael is from OpenMRS. So I take the source code from Michael, I run it, and I save it on my computer. So there is no. So the data is in my computer. The code is there. The code does not have any information about what data I'm using. It only has the information how that data is being handled and viewed.
Since it's open source, so everyone knows what's the version of software.
other way around. Open source software generally has shorter bug windows than closed source software. Open source software generally has shorter exposure windows than closed source software. In the closed source context, the vendor has an opportunity to trade off their profitability against the exposure of their customers to harmful criminals. Open source projects don't have the ability to make that trade-off.
Yep.
An open source project goes, we've got a bug, we've got to fix it now.
Because there are no secrets.
Closed source
As
systems.
soon as someone knows, the whole world knows it's there, and so that you can't really wait. So everyone has to kind of immediately respond and get that fixed and get out to the
Whereas,
user.
whereas in closed systems, and it's across the board, it's not just medical records, there are bugs that are known to exist in widely used software for a number of years in some cases, which for certain are in the hands of criminals. But the vendor is making a decision that What matters is their market presence and their ability to sell more software, and they're better off deploying engineers to make more features to sell more software than they are fixing the bugs in their own software. So despite the intuition that you're raising, the empirical data that has been published and analysed makes very clear that open source software has considerably shorter exposure windows than closed software.
I think your question is really important because if most of us here probably go to the doctor from time to time. They've got some information about us, and have you ever stopped to think, okay, where does that information live? Is it on some PC under his desk? How secure is that? Is it being sent, over the cloud, somewhere to another place? And where is that? These are, I think, important questions. The important thing that people often wonder about OpenMRS and our projects is do we keep all of the data from all of the world? And no, it's each one has their own server running. But not only do we trust those people to secure that server and make sure it has security patches and things, but we also have those people try to talk with each other and help and give them tips on how to secure things to help make sure that data is secure.
What is OpenMRS relationship with the vendors?
The vendors?
Yes.
Vendors as in?
As in somebody has to package it and deploy it at a certain hospital. So is there anybody can take OpenMRS and do it, or do you have a relationship with them?
No, anyone who feels
No, as in yes, they can do it.
Yeah, they can. Even if you feel you assess some area where you feel okay, they could really use a medical record system to help the people or organize the patients who are coming there.
Turn the question around. Are there organizations that are specializing
Yes.
in implementing OpenMRS
Yes.
under contract to the healthcare providers?
Yes, there are. One of the biggest or most significant example I can give is Bamni. So Bamni is in India. It's another. I can say Bamni has adapted from OpenMRS and a number of open technologies to implement a medical record system which is specific to India. And they are specializing to provide healthcare services which are focused on India. So an example which I can give is something called order sets. So in India, we do not go by prescription. We just go, okay, our doctor comes, okay, take this, take this, take this. It's not necessary at all that, it's not necessary at all that people like have an organized list of drugs that these are the only drugs which will exist. So there's a constant need of extending that list. So for the Indian part of it, there's something called order sets that the Bamni team has developed for OpenMRS. So
local
But to be
customization.
clear, it could be anything from an individual working at a hospital or a doctor's office might be smart enough, technology-wise to do it himself. We have some of those. We have kind of small local startup organizations, people that might do it for a regional hospital or something. And then there are even large international consulting companies. ThoughtWorks is a big one. They have an office here in Singapore, and they were behind the project he just mentioned in India, and do those around the world too. So really a wide range.
yeah.
Does the OpenMRS system have any kind of like the diagnostic or recommendation functionality? For example, you have a patient, you have a doctor, there's a patient with a runny nose, sore eyes, and then I can key inside the OpenMRS system and say, oh, this might be disease A, B, and C, and maybe you should give him this drug A and C and D, and maybe in certain dosages. Does this type of functionality exist for OpenMRS now?
It does, right?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
One of the, so this is another interesting thing about open source is there's been a long history of something known as Chica, which is a module for pediatric patients and decision support for pediatric patients. And that technology has then been made into a patent now. It's ongoing. So there's the open source version of it, but there's also a patented, a closed version of it too. So there's a nice mix match of open source and proprietary in OpenMRS itself.
Yeah. Now that you have
So there's
brought,
CDS.
sure.
Yeah.
So that you have brought diagnostic and things like this up. So OpenMRS is also working a lot on interoperability with other OpenMRS implementations or other medical record systems out there. So one of the well-known specifications of doing that is called FHIR, FHIR, Fast Healthcare Interoperability Resources. So FHIR actually has defined a diagnostic report resource. So if we can, if we diagnose something, we can either expose it to other implementations or our own systems, or if we are not able to diagnose something, we could probably request other systems and get a diagnostic report or something. So
Basically, there's
this
a
is
standard
also
language
yeah.
for all of these systems to trade information between each other.
So this
as
is
long as
also-
they conform to that standard, which itself is open source and free for everyone to use, then hopefully they'll all start talking to each other.
So
And
there's a standard for this kind of thing.
that's right. They're fairly new. Only
The
2
FHIR,
years it's been going on.
the FHIR
Yeah.
module, yeah, 2.5 years.
It's not even the final standard yet.
Yeah.
It's the-
Yeah, even the standard is being revised. I think the second revision just came out 6 or 7 months back. FHIR 2.
So the fire thing is the IP protected piece.
No. So that standard for exchanging information is, I think CC Creative Commons 0. It's a public domain, and that anyone can adopt it and use it in their own software.
So that's the diagnostic assisted.
That's
It's
one
It's the
part
means-
of
it's the
it.
means of
Yeah.
exchanging information about different analysis.
Yeah. Now, what he was mentioning earlier was this idea of what's called decision support systems.
Right.
Of helping you collect this data, make intelligent decisions and predictions and this kind of thing. That there seems to be a mix of. There's free and open source versions of that. It sounds like there's also a growing commercial proprietary versions.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about all these like initiatives like IBM or whatever, they train Watson and do medical diagnostics. But what happened is that once they have done it, because that's really what the world needs, right? Some of these developing countries. But once they have made that magic, they actually close it up. It's quite unfortunate, right? With this, I maybe your community can eventually kind of get to that by using some of this AI.
Yeah, we try to keep people remembering how much need there is in the world. There are so many places without access to any type of information management for healthcare, which is
Right.
so critical.
Yeah, I think it's tackling the wrong problem. The problem that Watson type systems are tackling is a sensing problem, but it's not actually relevant to up to
It's-
a billion human beings.
It's kind of it's a little more advanced. It's kind of the second tier.
Yep.
First we want to get everyone just the basic care. Granted, it would be even more empowering for them, and I think our idea is the more people we can pull in to this type of community that sees the greater benefit from working together on these problems, the more we can get them to find ways to use that those ideas and concepts of decision support systems. Personally, I'm very pragmatic. I don't care if it's open source or proprietary, as long as it helps people who need it. And maybe they can find a way to get this proprietary OpenMRS add-on, into a clinic in Kenya, for example. And I'd be okay with that. I would prefer it was open source, but if it helps, cure lives, save lives and cure disease, it's okay in my book.
So I guess you guys are trying to create a common data language. Like you guys use like ICD-10, that kind of coding. I mean, everyone adopts it. Is that?
Yeah,
what you do?
yeah. There's
HL7 as
a huge group of terminology experts in our community as well. So you can use ICD-10 if that's what you may use in your
more
country.
like the U.S. and
It's wide in the U.S., but it depends from place to place. But because this system is so customizable, you can use that or you can use an alternative.
Is there strong adoption of fire yet in developing countries? Are they still stuck with CCDA?
Of what? I'm sorry.
Of FHIR?
Yeah.
It's pretty
It's
new.
yeah.
So there would be strong adoption of CCDA, correct? Will you also support that?
CCDA.
The older version.
I'm not so sure about that.
There's one module that does, but it's not the whole thing.
Yeah.
It can only do OP nodes, operational nodes, or it can do some templates, not the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah. But for new environments, we're trying to build them for the future.
Right.
When they don't have anything that they need to use that for example.
Oh, but you would need, say, a lab system, for example. If you want to integrate with that, you need to figure out what is the commonly used.
So we use for systems like that, we use HL7 version 2.
Okay,
So that's what most systems, most legacy systems use.
Sure.
So instead of going to a middle time, like a middle phase of things like CDA, we directly jump into fire.
Sure.
I'm curious, like I mentioned that you guys were governments, right?
Yeah.
Did that happen organically? Or
Yeah.
was it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
Yeah, okay.
carry on.
Actually, yeah, I think
Let's
you'll
look
hear
at
more about it.
questions that should be later in the presentation.
Sure. What were you asking?
I was asking
Governments,
if like
growth
yeah,
within government.
yeah, did
Oh,
it
okay.
happen organically or was it like somebody had to like go around like pitching to governments or something?
Yeah, let's discuss that after this. Okay, did I miss? All right. So
We
let's
can probably step over this for this audience.
no. Let's go over it. All right.
How
So
simple can you make it?
Not really. This is not appropriate.
this is not appropriate. Okay, let's skip it then.
Well, maybe I'll say one thing about that is that there's the software, which is like this bottom row where you see MySQL. That's the storing and maintaining all of the data. The center dotted line is kind of the web application that you would use in your web browser, and how it gets information to the user, right, from the database.
So I think 1 or 2 lines would be enough so that they can get what the platform and reference applications are, right?
Yeah, and then this idea of distributions are somewhat similar to Linux, where you have kind of customizations, different types of Linux, for example, for an operating system.
How many distinct distributions are now?
So this is a very new concept for us, because I think we're like around 4 different ones right now. We have kind of our something.
OpenMRS, Kenya MR,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Balmy.
And is it?
Yeah.
So this is sort of the point that was the comment was made in the video about how the Linux community has dealt with the staggering complexity.
That's right. That's right.
Is it healthy? Are these guys feeding back, or is there a
They
tendency
are.
to kind of run off on their own?
They are. So we have more or less everyone helps with this dotted line box, which is called an API, which just means that's what handles moving the data back and forth. But then you have different people using different types of components building these web apps on top of that. Some are very similar and they reuse a lot of the same things, and some are very unique. And then you get even more interesting cases like this Bomni, which also bundles additional open source software products, like a lab system.
OpenLS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have kind of what's often called an ecosystem up there, where multiple people can develop these products within the community.
So who gets to do like a commit to the API? Like how do you control who does it?
So if you want to contribute to the API, it's open source. So we are using Jira for issue tracking. So if you think you wish to request a new feature, you can create a new issue in Jira. Or if you see a workable issue which exists or a bug which is already existing, you can claim that and start working on it. We also have a defined rule of how code contributions are to be made to our repositories. There's a proper flow. So you can claim the issue, you can hold some discussion with the designated committer for that issue to get a better understanding. Then you generally submit pull requests and you get some comments and feedbacks. And then after some testing, if all the code looks good, it goes to a code review phase. After an initial and a final review, and when we are sure that the code does what it is supposed to do, that bug is actually fixed, then it is merged into the final product, which is distributed with the release.
How large is your committer or reviewer pool?
The committers, we have about 177 committers.
Last year.
Yeah, in
Very-
A couple
2015,
hundred. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
And
enough.
for new developers, we have kind of a roadmap of what we call developer stages. So you can have kind of you actually get badges for these things, and so you start out at what's called dev null, and you go dev 1, dev 2, all the way up to 5. /dev/null, and you get increasing accountability and responsibility along the way. So yes, you can go right in and start working on code if you like. But then after you've done certain things, and you can start, reviewing pull requests. You may work your way up like Mayank did in a short year of, managing an entire release of the software. So we've got kind of a roadmap for people if they want to do more and get more involved.
So continuing on the presentation, so we just talked about how OpenMRS is structured. So based on that structure, there are different kinds of distributions that we have. The first one I'm going to talk about is the OpenMRS platform. So what the platform, it is the API layer and the database that we showed. So basically the database layer and the API layer, the REST API, OpenMRS API and add-on modules.
Just the basics.
Yeah, it's just the basics. It has an optional UI. Optional as in you can install it as a module and...
Let's get out of the plumbing.
Yes, sorry.
It's not
So yeah, so that's the optional UI which you can install and start interacting with the API directly. Or you can use what we call reference application. So you can relate the platform to a Linux kernel, and making the same analogy, you can relate the reference application to different distributions of Linux or the desktop environments, the UI. To be more precise, a reference application is a complete web app which runs on top of the platform and exposes all the functionality. So now the UI would look something like this when you have the reference application running on top of OpenMRS platforms. The other interesting distribution I want to talk about is Project Buendia. It was something I mentioned early on regarding the Ebola outbreak. So Project Buendia is, I'll start with the problem. So when Ebola broke out, the doctors were wearing gloves, right, and interacting with tablets or with keyboards and with stuff like that, maintaining the record of so many people. It's not easy because the user interfaces on our tablet, once you wear a glove, you cannot tap on different things and feed data. So Project Buendia picked up this as one of the problems and a lot of other use cases during the Ebola outbreak. And they built specialized Ebola modules. They built a unique Android app which runs on a tablet. And that tablet has a special casing which was specifically developed to be used in the Ebola environment. I'm just going to show you a video of what that looks like. And that's an open hardware tablet case which uses Intel Edison to run a OpenMRS server because an Edison definitely has low power and low power requirement as compared to running a dedicated server. So yeah, so low cost and low power server was on the Edison, and it was developed in partnership with Doctors Without Borders and Google.org. I'm going to let the videos do some talking about the project so you can get a feel of.
If we're not going faster than the epidemic's going to win. We've got to be able to go faster than time. Death from Ebola is one of the most horrible and painful experiences that any human can endure. When the Ebola epidemic exploded in Africa in 2014, the doctors, they couldn't communicate quickly. They couldn't bring laptops or tablets into the tents because if they carried them back out again, they'd be bringing the disease out with them. All these guys could do was just write stuff on paper and then run to the edge of the quarantine tent and yell it out to someone. So a bunch of us got together and said, how do we solve this? What can we do? What we needed was a portable network, which was a series of tablets connected to a server wirelessly. The only solution we found was the Intel Edison. Everything hinged on that. Each had to be covered by a protective case so it could be dumped in chlorine to kill the virus. Working in a crisis it changes the way you work, it changes the way you think about problems. We made a system that would have taken the team 2 years, we did it in 2 months. Once we had a system like this in place, the doctors could spend more time with patients. There's nothing more personal than helping somebody live than keeping the family together. Without a lot of money, with simply dedication and some time, you can make a difference. And that's really what making this all about.
So this is another video which talks about the tablet and the application that they made. You can see that the icons are pretty large, so that when those people have gloves and are interacting with the tablet, they can easily do it with the gloves on and without getting contaminated themselves. Even the lists are large enough to make them easily interact.
This was a case where we had people working on an open source project that weren't necessarily programmers. They were either doctors or they were design thinkers who could think about, okay, instead of a big complicated web page form, how can I totally simplify this and make it, highly touchable and break things down so I don't have to type as much. And so that's why they came up with this specialized Android app. I think it's on a loop, so.
And the other innovation is that the tablet could be dipped into chlorine, the fluids for disinfectant, and then you just work. So that was the other innovation, with the server being something that could be dipped in liquid.
So is this a downloadable thing right now, or?
Yeah, so all of the OpenMRS modules, the Android app is open source, downloadable.
Really?
Even the specs for the
design.
cases, the hardware design and the specifications, if you wanted to manufacture the cases yourself, are all out there.
Unbelievable.
The idea was to work fast. Nobody knew how long this Ebola thing would really be a problem, so we wanted to maximize the people we could get it to as quickly as we could.
Yeah. So amongst the other distributions, we also have an Android client which communicates via our REST APIs to the OpenMRS platform. And we also have an iOS client which was actually built by a 15-year-old boy out of his own interest. So he just read about OpenMRS, built an iOS client and approached the community. Okay, I built an iOS client. What do you guys want to do and how do you want to take it forward?
Sorry, what's the difference between the Android app and the Android client?
The Android, why I'm calling it a client is because it itself is not running OpenMRS on its processor and stuff. It's communicating via the internet, making requests and receiving response and then displaying it. Yeah. So. Yeah, this is what the UI looks like. It's pretty aligned with the web application that we showed you earlier, the reference application UI. So here are quick tips of how you can get involved with the OpenMRS community. So if you log on to om.rs/help, you can read a lot about the QA processes, documentation, and how developers can connect with each other. We are pretty active on the IRC channel, which is hashtag OpenMRS on Freenode, and we also have a Telegram channel. So to get details about those, you can log on to om.rs/hi, and you can we use Discourse, which is OpenMRS Talk, as our primary forum for discussions and introductions and to manage all the community interactions. So you can log on to that on talk.openmrs.org and start contributing from there as well. So we are participating in Google Summer of Code 2016. So if any one of you are college graduates are college students or know any students, it's a great way of spending your summer hacking on different interesting OpenMRS projects. That's actually how I got started with OpenMRS last year. So the application process began yesterday and it will go on till 26. And yes, and we also will be having the OpenMRS Worldwide Summit in Singapore in December this year. So please come and join us for that, and we are always looking for volunteers and anyone who is willing to help for a good cause. So yeah.
Do you have the IDRC that short video?
Oh yes.
I think these guys would.
Yeah, that would
kind
make
of
a lot of sense.
like to see some patients. Let's look at it. If you have another 5 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
This is a few years old, but lets you hear directly from some of the people that were helping, which is pretty cool.
You have to check our status, you have to get the stallion check out clinic. So that the
Nigeria, right?
the next
Kenya.
precision
The yellow
needs
card.
clinic checkup next time. So that's why you need this card. It's very important because you don't want to know whether you have a problem in the system. So basically that's why they do it often every month. And the weight also, it's lowering down the something on the ask you, Samir, what is wrong with you?
Last time you were 62. Today I'm saying to be 60. Why is you are 2 kg?
Because right now I'm not sick. When somebody was asking me, Samir, you don't look sick, you don't be sick. I don't listen here as long as I've been monitoring you for the last 16 years. I should get you the medication. Told me, you don't look sick. But I said, I'm not sick. I'm the sickest guy in the world. I'm just a patient and a member of our board. That's all.
You have the results.
Yeah, I have the results for last time. Now come again. Not off. But the data is too much. You'll explain that to them.
We have more than 5,000 patients. In a day, we can see maybe 220 per day.
With 70,000 patients at 18 different clinics, there's no way that you could keep track of who's who and what's happened with which patient if we didn't have an electronic database.
I've observed over the years that there were a lot of projects doing specific applications built on Access or some other relatively simple environment, but then they found that it couldn't grow or it couldn't be extended or it didn't have the flexibility to really have a long-term future. And what we wanted to do was to create a platform in which people could innovate and create really effective tools, but were able to actually share those different applications.
By providing the interoperability between various systems, a country may pick and choose various components as they see fit, which would better suit their application.
We call that the open architecture because what we're doing is we're trying to look for or define an architecture which is open and which allows those independent systems to interoperate and to create an integrated health system.
It's not enough simply to be open source, to say, well, this is open source, you can go out and download it. Successful open source projects also involve community, and Paul and Burke and Chris and also Hamish Fraser have done an amazing job in building that trusted community that has attracted lots and lots of developers.
Alright, so this is the home screen of OpenMRS. So if we want to collect information on somebody's nose hair density, we would have to create a new concept. Now we're going to collect information on it, so we need to add it to a form. So we see it, it does a quick search through our dictionary and fast concept to the form.
So OpenRosa is very exciting at the moment. That's a community that was largely developed out of an IDRC funded project.
We waited to cell phone because
this is obviously evolved into
cheaper
Android and other platforms from
the site has driven up by cell phones because the workers already have cell phones.
There's massive interest in that. It's a robust, thriving open source community now.
The basic problem that there is so much compatibility between phones.
Trying to get the scale. Here we have just a sample form that we've built. So you see the mobile phone interface like a text message. And we've rescanned our form and it automatically prompts you to send the data off to whatever server we set up to gather it. And it's sending. And that's that.
This flies in the face of what people are typically doing right now. And I think there are motivations for that to continue because it's a very profitable endeavor.
Diverting all funds, all resources that are key to patient care rather than to the tools that are required for information management is the way to go.
So we're trying to just show by example and really not trying to focus on talking about it as much as just doing it.
You see, initially when it started, they were planning for maybe 20,000 patients, but now it's more. I think we have reached over 100,000. Yeah, it has really changed, and we have so many people attending. Yeah, not only from our catchment area, but even from other districts. And you see, when we are doing the registrations, they are really interested. They want to know that their names appear in the computer. Here is basically where we do the registrations, because this is our entry point. We register patients from this side. There is another data entry room in the Amber clinic. So when Chris comes, Normally goes there. If you have any problem, this is the data room.
AMRS is an implementation of the OpenMRS. AMRS basically stands for the Untitled Medical Record System. It was just a matter of trying to have a computerized medical record system in rural Africa.
When you used to have paperwork, it would take you 1 week to compile a report and finish. But now, you can do it in a day, and you write all the reports that we send to the Ministry of Health.
And the Ministry of Health supports it very much. It will use it for procurement of drugs and for retaining us as health workers.
There's a lot of work to be done, and we're seeing a growing community of people that want to be a part of that approach. And so it's up to us to work really hard towards trying to create the substrate that people can succeed in that.
And I really believe there's a tremendous amount of power the world will eventually see with this information system helping guide day-to-day care in very rural, remote parts of sub-Saharan Africa.
But all in all, I'm perfect. I think I'm perfect. Smart-looking lady, admirable, smiling, which I don't really have a smile. I like to think that's all.
Yeah, so we've grown a lot in the few years since this came out. Some of the challenges we've actually got in place, like the interoperability things, and obviously the Palm Pilot software has moved over to Android and the latest tools, so we'll always be chasing those. Yeah, so we try to remember that we're helping save lives every day, which is pretty cool.
So one of the things which I was mentioning in the beginning was like what we saw here, these people having computers and having that basic technical know-how to do these things. Initially, at the OpenMRS Summit, I actually met with Ellen Ball, who is one of the implementers with PIH, and she showed a picture where people were actually having a big room stuffed with all these papers. It was a big room stuffed with files and files and files, so even if you have to perform a basic search or track the history of a patient, it was impossible. But the sad thing that happened was there was a lot of rain during the rainy season, and some of the water actually seeped in through that room and the records were destroyed. So like that, it really made me appreciate like what OpenMRS is doing for these people, and this video validates again that fact.
Before you were showing a global map, and I kind of noticed that there are certain countries that are not using it at all. I think U.S. or Australia, they already have very developed, so they don't need this. But a country like China, was just kind of like completely empty. So what was the reason behind this? Because they already have system in place, or?
Yeah, well, language is the biggest barrier, one of the biggest barriers.
Language, so I was about to ask,
language is not a big deal.
Any localization efforts for the project?
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Somewhat related to the question. Is there any localization efforts of the project?
Yes. So we are actually we look for volunteers who help with the localization, the internationalization process, or as we stated. So there's a tool, Transifix, that we use. So all the terms and concepts that we are using in English in OpenMRS implementations are actually translated to respective. Say I'm from India, so I translated some of them to Hindi. Someone from China can translate them to Chinese.
Yeah, so anyone, if you maybe you're not a programmer, but you know some languages, anyone can help, and go out here to the website, and literally, you have maybe an English version and Chinese version.
So any text-based, whatever.
Anywhere text appears in the,
I don't think I have the credentials to allow.
All you need to know is it's a very simple way. You just fill out a form. You don't have to be an expert computer person to do it.
Stepping again out of plumbing. There's 1 billion people there, 800 million of whom are not particularly well off. Do you have any sense of why there's limited adoption in China?
You seem to have an idea, but I'll let you go, and then I'll use what I normally talk about.
I think the biggest problem with OpenMRS today is the vendors, the scale at which we can implement. So we've not got really large vendors. Yeah,
Yes, I'll explain.
So we've not got really large vendors who act in all the different continents, different places. So we want companies to take this up, and so ThoughtWorks is doing this. ThoughtWorks is not a large scale implementing organization. It's a software development company, but it's not an implementation organization. So you need some companies that can implement stuff, like Red Hat Rails, many thousand people. And so my role, I think, could really change the whole game for OpenMRS in the sense, because I'm leading the education and training part. We want to build a capacity of workforce, and then that workforce could be entrepreneurs, could be businesses who want to then support implementations. I think that's the biggest problem why we cannot do this at scale. Whereas companies like Sharma or Epic can do this because they have this pipeline created. They have this workforce ready to implement, and they have companies that make profit out of this and implement this. And so we're not against the idea that people should make, and in fact we support the idea that people should make money, should make big companies out of OpenMRS code by implementing it, and probably then giving something back to the community.
There's also a reason why we've started having this annual summit in Singapore every year, because there is so much need throughout Asia generally, and we want to build
you got
more
Malaysia,
awareness in this part of the
200
world.
something million.
That's right.
And,
That's right.
I mean,
to start from somewhere which has not yet the electronic recording system yet.
Yeah,
If
for
you
example,
already have
Singapore
some systems, then it's difficult to replace them.
I give the
For
example
example,
of
China
Singapore.
and Malaysia, I guess they
Because the
have
China
already.
medical system is very stressed. You know, people go there and they have to wait a day to seek emergency treatment. So I mean, I don't know where the bottleneck is, but you know, there are also opportunities for a fraud or some kind of misdiagnosis in China, which is not.
But I'll add to what you said a little bit, and the reason we have had people from China come to the community and try to learn more and see, okay, you know, I'm just one person, but maybe there's something I can do, to help my community, help the place I am. But most of those people tend to struggle with having complex discussions in English. This is what we found with the people who come to us. And it's also tough to interact like in real time with a lot of people in the other side of the planet, so the time zones are also challenging. So that's part of the reason why we want to build up more awareness and volunteers throughout Asia to help support that.
Because they understand the culture, they understand the use cases much better than someone from a different context. So we're not looking company.
And from there, once you have those people, then you can start looking at larger organizations who may be able to support the government, for example, and rolling out software.
I think we should probably wrap it there. We're quite a bit over time, mostly because we kept talking, which is great. So thank you very much.
Help yourself to some stickers if you like.
We got some OpenMRS swag over here, so feel free to grab some.